You want to master yourself? You want to unlock the kind of power that doesn't shake when the world turns its back? Then stay, because what I'm about to tell you, no one ever said out loud. This is not motivation, this is transformation. And it starts in the one place everyone runs from, solitude. See, most people fear being alone. They confuse loneliness with weakness. But those who walk the hardest paths know. Isolation is where the real growth happens. When you strip away the noise, the opinions, the distractions, you finally hear the voice that matters, your own. You've been taught to avoid that voice, to fear your own silence. You scroll, you talk, you run from yourself. But here's the truth. You cannot master what you won't face. You cannot conquer what you always avoid. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's a forge, a place where pressure forms diamonds. When you choose silence, you choose discipline. You choose to hear your pain, your weakness, and then you choose to destroy them. That's where power begins, in silence, alone. Comment this below. Power begins in solitude. Subscribe now, so you never miss the silence that builds power. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Being alone reveals who you really are, not who you pretend to be online, not who you become in a crowd, but who you are when it's just you. No filters, no validation, no distractions. And that's terrifying, because most people can't face what they see in that silence, in that mirror. So they run, back to noise, back to fake friends, back to comfort zones that kill growth slowly. But not you. You stayed. You chose to look, to sit in the discomfort. And that's how transformation starts. You'll hear doubt louder in solitude. You'll feel fear echo in the silence. But you don't run. You listen. You study it. Then you respond with action. Because power isn't about avoiding fear. It's about walking through it, stone-faced, focused, and unshaken. When you master your solitude, you master your reactions. And when you master your reactions, no one controls you, nothing distracts you. That's when you become untouchable. Comment this below. I face myself. I don't run. You ever wonder why your mind races when you're finally alone? Why the second silence hits, your brain floods with chaos? It's not random. It's your distractions dying and your truth screaming to be heard. In solitude, the lies you told yourself can't hide. The goals you abandoned speak up. The weakness you ignored knocks at your door. That's the test. Can you stay long enough in silence to face what you've buried? Can you sit with it and not run? Most can't. They grab the phone. They scroll endlessly. They turn on noise just to avoid themselves. But you're different. You're not here to escape. You're here to evolve. Here's how. In solitude, you don't numb the noise. You train your mind to focus. You build mental precision like a sniper. You aim your thoughts. You cut the unnecessary. You train the chaos into calm. And when you master that inner focus, you move through life with laser clarity. You're not reactive, you're proactive, you're strategic, and most of all, you're unstoppable. Comment this below. I train the chaos into calm. Like this video, if silence is where you build your strength, still think solitude is something you go through? Solitude isn't a phase, it's a weapon. And once you master it, you don't just survive in it, you thrive in it. Most people see solitude as isolation. You turn it into identity. You turn it into discipline. You turn it into power. Can you stop seeing solitude as punishment and start treating it as your training ground? Because warriors are not built in crowds. They're built in silence, in rooms where no one is watching, in moments where no one is clapping. And in those moments, you decide who you really are, not based on applause, not based on followers, but based on what you choose to do when no one is looking. That's where self-respect is born. That's where mental strength is built, and that's where identity is forged, not by others, but by you. Comment this below. Solitude is my power. What if I told you solitude isn't the end, but the blueprint? The place where you don't just survive, you rebuild. In a world that's always telling you who to be, solitude is the one place where you decide for yourself. No labels, no pressure, no noise, just you, and the pieces of the man you were always meant to be. It feels empty at first. You feel lost, disconnected, like you've stepped outside the world and now nothing makes sense. But that's exactly when it begins. Because from emptiness, you can create. From silence, you can architect a new mind. You don't need to be who they said you were. You don't need to chase approval. You sit in solitude and you start laying bricks. One disciplined habit at a time, one unbreakable belief at a time, and slowly you rebuild. Stronger, sharper, untouchable. Comment this below. I rebuild in silence. Turn on notifications. Power doesn't wait, neither should you. Most people walk blindly. They react, they chase, they survive. But you've learned to walk alone. And now, you see what they can't. Solitude sharpens you. You start to see patterns. You read energy. You predict moves before they're made. That's the hidden power of silence. It turns your mind into a strategist. Most quit right here. They feel the silent stretch. They feel disconnected. And they confuse peace with weakness. But silence isn't weakness. It's intel. It's signal. It's where your mind calibrates, where focus becomes your edge. While they run around for attention, you sit still and read the battlefield. You're not just rebuilding, you're planning your rise with clarity, with control, with precision. Because real power, it moves silently and strikes with no warning. Comment this below. I grow in silence. You ever notice how people panic when you choose to walk alone? They'll say, "You've changed. You're cold. You're distant." But what they really mean is, you've stopped needing them. And that's terrifying to the world. Because the second you detach, you become unpredictable. The second you stop chasing, you become powerful. That's the hidden code of the lone wolf. Power through disconnection. Clarity through silence. Dominance without attention. The challenge, they'll try to pull you back. Back into the noise. Back into weakness. Back into dependence. But now you know the truth. What makes you different is what makes you dangerous. You don't crave crowds. You don't beg for validation. You're at home in the silence. You've built comfort in discomfort. You've made isolation your fortress. This isn't temporary. This is transformation. This is the rebirth of a new identity, built in solitude, forged in silence, and unstoppable by noise. If you want to learn how to turn this mindset into daily power, into action, into domination, then you better not miss what's coming next. Watch the next videos, because I'll be revealing techniques and systems that most people will never understand, and even fewer will master. What if I told you everything they warned you against, walking alone, being too quiet, cutting people off, focusing only on your path, is exactly what makes you dangerous? They don't fear your rage. They fear your discipline. They don't fear your voice. They fear your silence. They don't fear your strength in the spotlight. They fear the monster you became in the shadows, because solitude did something no crowd ever could. It made you whole. No borrowed energy, no fake masks, no diluted identity. Just you, clear, cold, calculated, unstoppable. And now that you've forged yourself in the dark, you carry a power no one understands, because you didn't just survive isolation, you thrived in it. You trained in silence, you planned in silence, you rebuilt in silence, and now you rise from that silence with no one to thank but yourself. No fake friends, no external validation, no permission. So here's the final question. And it's not for the weak. If the world had to face the version of you that you built in silence, would they be ready? Tell me in the comments.